Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 191 of the show. And before we get started into the house cleaning quick, because, well, it only makes sense that we do it because you guys like the house cleaning. So let's just get on with the house cleaning. Because I know today's episode, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with it, just being honest. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly make time to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not. Which I know you guys are probably going to say, hey, this episode's coming out on a Friday. Yeah, I posted on my social medias that because of what was going on Tuesday and Wednesday, I decided that I wanted to do the episode for this Friday. And we'll get into why, especially as we talk about it. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening and downloading these episodes. We're almost at 2,700 total downloads. So again, thank you guys for that. Hopefully we can hit 3,000, hopefully by the end of the year. And my goal, or at least by the 3-year anniversary of the show, because that's what I like to do, is like for the growth of the show, is that I want to hit 1,000 downloads every single year. So that's what I want to do for growth. But I do want to say thank you to the Patreon backers for supporting the show, because, well, you guys support the show. So if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can click the link down below and become a Patreon backer for $2 a month, because that's all it takes to just get early access to the new episodes. But I do want to talk about this week's episode specifically because it's a real talk. The reason I pushed this one back was because on Wednesday I was hosting a program. Since October is the month of Mental Health Awareness Month, for me, I wanted to do a program for my residents where I talk about mental health and just have a live real talk. Basically the whole point of the event of the program, that it was titled Real Talk, open conversation about mental health. And why now? Like, why talk about mental health? And I think for me personally, I think this pandemic that we have gone through this past year and now going on to 2 years has really shown us that, we kind of struggle with this idea heavily of mental health, that it's clear as day that this is something that got heavily exposed, besides the whole supply chain issues, which eventually we'll talk about that stuff. But the fact that our mental health was exposed, that yes, we're not in a very good place in terms of mental health. This isn't just something in the US, this is a problem all around the world. That just in general, we're not in a good place when it comes to mental health, or even the idea of talking about it. Like, it's one of those things where, yes, we acknowledge that this is a big issue affecting people nowadays, but it doesn't seem like we really take it seriously, or we just brush it off, And I get it. Like, some people say there's many reasons that, we're more anxious, we're more depressed. Like, if we're honestly comparing generations, if we want to be realistic here and, be open and honest, yes, if we're comparing my generation to my parents' generation, we are more depressed than them. And they have seen a lot of stuff in their life. They've seen more life than we have, because that's just objective fact. They've lived longer. They've obviously seen much more life. Now, that doesn't degrade the quality of experiences that we have. That just means they've seen more things. And that's why, as a result, people always say respect your elders, so you can learn from the mistakes of the past so that history does not repeat itself. But we've noticed that we're more depressed, we're more anxious, that our mental health is degrading at a more rapid rate. And it's one of those things where, it doesn't help that even though, yes, we are technologically more advanced than the generations that have come before us, it's also becoming our own double-edged sword. if you think about it, because, well, yes, social media is a great way to connect with people for, people like me that run a photography business, videography business, and run a podcast. It's a great way to share clips or share stuff about my company or share stuff about the show. And for other people, it's a great way to brand, to reach out, to like get in, become an influencer, if you want to use that term. But it also leads to one of the biggest issues when it comes to mental health, which is comparison. That you're always comparing yourself to somebody else. That you're always, whether it be your body, how you dress, how you talk, what you buy, that it just seems like it's always this game of comparison that you just always want to compare. And if you realize it, I think if you are inclined in the entire conversation, yeah, that degrades your mental health heavily. And people don't seem to understand that. Yes, while I do agree social media can be good, it's a useful tool, it should not be your life. It shouldn't be how you view it shouldn't be the lens that you view the world, if that makes any sense. That you shouldn't treat social media as gospel. You shouldn't treat it as, without this, I am nothing. You shouldn't treat it like when you go on there, like, don't treat it as a way to just beat yourself up, because if you're always talking about, well, my mental health is degrading, that I just don't feel I don't feel well, that every time I go on social media, I always get upset when I see pictures of, say, my friends getting married, or, the fact that my friends are getting married and I'm still single, that I don't have anybody, or the fact that, oh, my friend just landed a new job and he's making tons of money, and yet here I am still working a dead-end job trying to meet ends meet. Or people posting pictures of their graduation, like, hey, I just graduated from college, I got a full-time offer from a company, and yet I'm still here failing all my classes. That resonates with a lot of people, and the list can go on and on and on. And yeah, it degrades your mental health. Social media is not our best friend when it comes to taking care of our mental health, if we're just being honest here. And it doesn't help either that when you go through a lot of loss, when you go through a lot of pain, emotional, physical, it's going to degrade your mental health too. Because I always have told people, I've always disliked the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Because, well, yes, it is true. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. It will also make you more bitter. And people don't seem to realize that. The idea that, yes, while it may not kill you, you'll become more bitter as a result, especially in the experiences like, oh, well, I just got ghosted by this girl. Well, I guess she wasn't good for me. But then you're like, but I don't like girls at all anymore. Like, I don't want to trust other people. Like, it makes you bitter. It makes you cold-hearted. And for me, on some levels, that resonates with me too. Because I acknowledge that, yeah, my mental health wasn't the best growing up. If I'm just being honest with you, I remember growing up, yeah, I always felt like a failure. I always felt like I messed up, that I always didn't do the right things that made my parents look good, that I always felt like I was the mistake, that I always made them look bad, even though they didn't do anything. It was always me. But every time people would see me do something stupid, they're like, oh, it's just a reflection of his parents. And my mental health degraded heavily to the point where, yeah, when my aunt passed away when I was young, my depression became very, very strong. It was very hard. I'm just being honest with you guys. And then it didn't get better when you add in addictions to certain things. You add in more loss. When my grandmother passed away in 2015, and it got to the point where, yeah, like my mental health had degraded to the point my depression was at an all-time high. And I've been open and honest about this, where, yeah, I wanted to end my life. And it's one of those things where it was hard, if I'm just being honest with you. That I would always say things like, why do good people like my aunt or my grandma have to go, but people like me get to stay around? That my mental health had degraded to the point I couldn't talk to anybody. There wasn't anybody that I can reach out to. And like, yes, in terms of my personal beliefs, my mom and dad weren't there, but I know that there was somebody there. And I always say, like, because of those experiences, when I was having that conversation with myself in Costa Rica of like, why am I still here? That for me, the gospel became reality. That I began to just experience some things that something happened that just, I couldn't logically explain why it happened at that moment, but it was the best thing that could have happened. And from there, I began to understand what it meant to love others. Even though, yes, I still wasn't perfect, because I'm just being honest with you, I'm never going to be perfect. But in that moment, it just felt like everything had just gone away. Now, granted, well, yes, I walked away from that experience when I was 15, knowing what it meant to truly love other people. There were still pieces of the puzzle missing. Fast forward, when I went to camp with some people at my high school in Young Life, yeah, things became much clearer. And then the missing piece of the puzzle had been found. Now it was just getting used to it. And yeah, my mental health was still rocky. I'm just being honest with you. Like, yeah, I was still battling my depression. But as time had gone on, I began to understand that I wasn't alone. That a lot of those ideas that I created in my head, a lot of those, I would say, lies, just being honest, that I had believed for such a long time were disproven. That I began to let go of a lot of those things. Well, yes. Has there been hard moments since then? Yeah, I'm just being honest with you. Like, after I became much more aware of my mental health, became much more aware of my depression, began taking healthy steps to address those concerns and address those issues in my life, my brother passed away. My sister passed away the next year. Fast forward to 2020, my grandfather passes away. Fast forward to this year, 2021, my aunt passed away too. And it's been hard, if I'm being honest with you guys. Like, I'm not going to pretend like this idea that mental health is just, oh, it's good vibes only, you know, like good vibes, bro, good vibes. Like, guys, that's bullshit. It's okay to acknowledge that there's going to be hard days. It's okay that not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows, because it never will be. It's okay to just admit that life is going to suck. It's okay to admit that. I don't want you guys to just start thinking that, oh, if everything isn't working out, if everything's not working the way it's supposed to, then, you know, shit, something's wrong. It's like, no. Well, yeah, something is wrong, but in the sense that it's okay that things are not working out the way they're supposed to. It's just normal. That's just how life is you got to learn to eat 50 layers of shit before you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Before you see a lot of good days, yeah, you're going to have to go through a lot of shit. Life is a roller coaster. Just being honest, it's always been described that way. It's a roller coaster. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but at the end of the day, it's still worth it. And when we talk about this idea of mental health, yes, it's very important that we have these discussions about how we feel about things, that we have this discussion about, you know, why we're depressed, why we're anxious, like what's causing us to feel this way. Because let's be honest here, there's a lot of reasons to be anxious right now. You know, job security, financial insecurity. We're talking about insecurities of like, do I even know if my family members are going to be alive to see certain moments in my life? You could fill in the blank with anything that makes you anxious, that makes you feel nervous. You know, even like a lot of people my age, in the age category of 18 to 23, that age category is asking themselves, am I going to be single forever? Am I not going to graduate college? Am I not going to have a good job after I graduate? Am I going to be able to pay my rent? Am I going to be able to, you know, do a lot of things that I want to do with my life? You know, and yeah, and it doesn't help that, you know, like I mentioned earlier, social media, it definitely ain't helping, bud. Especially when we've realized that, yeah, people like to compare ourselves, especially in our age where it's like personal fitness is starting to become very popular. And there's a lot of people that are just wanting to beat themselves up when they see other people that, you know, take the necessary steps to go be healthy, that they want to achieve a better way of living, if you want to put it like that, that they want to be healthier, they want to be more active, they want to be better prepared for as you get older, because yeah, as you get older, your health is going to degrade. So if you start off in a much better position, then yeah, you're much better off, unless there's like certain genetic things going on. But I also want to make it clear too that when we talk about mental health, I don't want this to feel like, oh, I have all the answers, we have it all figured out, because no, I don't. I'm just being honest with you. I am not a medical professional. I am not a trained psychiatrist. I can only speak about the experiences that I have and how I've handled certain things, but maybe how I've handled certain things may not work for you. But it's having that open discussion, because this is the first step of addressing a problem. is you talk about it. You address that there's an issue. You talk about it. You share experiences. You understand where people are coming from, because that's always been the answer to every problem ever, is talk about it. Like, genuinely have a conversation. Understand where that person is coming from, why that person feels the way they do. Don't just belittle their experience just because it doesn't line up with yours. Understand where they're coming from. Make a connection, because there is a connection, whether you believe it or not. But I also understand that, yeah, things are weird. Like, we've seen, as I mentioned, this whole pandemic has caused a lot of issues. It's exposed a lot of flaws in our society. It's exposed flaws in how we manage that society. And yet, here we are, still alive, still breathing, and you're still grateful to have another day. Even though, yes, there's been a lot of people that have lost their lives in these past 2 years, just being honest. You know, my grandfather passed away last year. My aunt passed away this year. I didn't get to see either one of them because I wasn't able to go to Costa Rica to go see them. I wasn't able to talk to them before they passed because it happened so fast. I think with me, if I'm just being honest, guys, is I get it. It's hard, especially, you know, being in the position where, yeah, I know what it's like to compare myself to other people when I look on social media. And it's hard when sometimes when I look on social media and I see my friends getting married and I'm still like, you know, I'm still single. And it's one of those things where I have to understand that my identity, like, because I understand that when it comes to personal beliefs and things, that yes, my identity as a Christian, I know that my beliefs, or in my belief, that yes, my identity is not found in the world, but it is found in Christ, that because he is perfect in every way, that he has done all the work for me, I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to work to achieve something. It's be faithful to him, walk with him, because he has already done all the work. He's doing all the heavy lifting. You're just doing your part, which is bare minimum at best. And if I'm being honest with you, yeah, like, it's hard sometimes. It really is. Like, there's still times where, yeah, I still deal with my depression. There's times where I will get anxious. There's times where I'll get stressed out. I'll get nervous. I don't know. Like, that's just the reality of things, guys. It doesn't just go away. But as time goes on, it becomes much more manageable because my perspective is much different. I'm looking at things from a different lens than I was when I was 15 or when I was younger and I was at the height of all of it. I'm looking at things from a different perspective, and maybe that might be the answer to a lot of our problems, is maybe changing our perspective on how we view things. Maybe. For you, it might be a change of perspective might actually help. Or in the case of some people, like, yeah, we can acknowledge that mental health can also be medical, that it can, to be honest, for a lot of people, it could be a condition that they are born with, or that it can be because, just being honest here, with the human brain, it's still practicing medicine because we still don't understand how the human brain works. As much as people like to say that we do, yeah, we've openly admitted it. We probably only understand about 30 to 60% of how the brain actually works. We don't necessarily understand how the brain works 100%. It's just one of those things where that's just our reality, guys. I think with me, I just want you guys to feel encouraged. I want you guys to know that you are loved, that you're cared about, that yes, well, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And yeah, I'm just being honest with you. Like, here in town, yesterday we saw an example, or at least at the time of this recording, that yes, yesterday on Wednesday this week, a person tried to end their life. And to me, it's heartbreaking hearing that, because it's like, it's heartbreaking to hear that somebody got pushed all the way to the edge to get to that point, and it could have been avoided. To me, this is why I like doing these conversations. This is why I like being more open, being more intimate with these conversations, because these are things that we should be talking about. These shouldn't feel like such taboo topics. These should be open, regular discussions that we talk about. How's your mental health? How are you doing with certain things? Like, how are you dealing with this thing that I know you're struggling with? Or how's, being single? How are you adapting? How are you, these should be conversations that we should be having on a regular basis, and not just when we feel like it, or when it's not taboo, or when it's the right time. Like, no, these should be open conversations that should be had on everyday basis. What was considered, I would say, not normal, but what's considered taboo should be a normal conversation. This shouldn't be a weird, awkward conversation. This should be a healthy discussion that leads to growth, that leads to people finding solution to their problems, that leads to people living healthier, more active lives, and not being so, they're not so chained or enslaved to their mental health. Rather, they should be free, that they should feel freedom, that they should experience what it means to really let go and feel free. But at the end of the day, that's all I really have to say. That's why I wanted to do this episode after the discussion with my residents, because I felt it was much easier, it was much better, that it made much more sense to me, if I'm just being honest with you guys. It allows me to have more fuel for fire, if you want to say it like that. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you guys so much for your time, for allowing me to have a piece of your time to begin with, because I know time is extremely valuable. But as always, guys, I love you guys to death. Thank you guys for being patient with me. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always, don't do anything dumb, guys. I will see you guys next week. Please have yourselves a wonderful weekend. I know this is Halloween weekend. Try not to do anything dumb, guys. I know it's Halloween. Just have fun, enjoy yourselves, but do so in a kind and respectful way to those around you, and try not to do any property damage, because I know that likes to happen a lot on Halloween. So I love you guys. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.